This podcast is sponsored by Intentional Living magazine, your ultimate guide created to help infuse purpose and passion into your everyday life. From expert features that provide valuable insights to thought-provoking content that sparks transformation, this magazine, an online platform, is a perfect source of inspiration for all of those of us who truly believe in the power of intentional choices.
Welcome to this episode, and today we're going to be talking about, can we just talk about men's mental health? And we are bringing to the episode Marc Kelly, who is the founder of New Leaf, Nature and Wellbeing, and the Forest Brotherhood, and just so happens to be my beautiful husband. So enjoy. We'd love your feedback. Let us know what you think. How do, Claire?
Hello.
Oh, you know what? You pretend to be so quiet and you're actually not. Hello.
Shut up.
Hello. Shut up yourself. Right.
Well, I'm being all nice. I always feel like when we've got a guest, I have to feel like a bit professional. And then I go all like this. And then 5 minutes in, I just go into the normal Scouse Claire.
Yeah.
So
I like the normal Scouse Claire, the bless.
Today we've got a lovely guest in, and it is Marc Kelly, who is Jules Kelly.
Jules Kelly?
Jules Kelly's. Oh my God, my I can't speak today. Who is Jules Kelly's other half. And we're here today to talk about men opening up.
Yeah, all things mental health for men, opening up, challenges of that. And Marc was meant to be here when we did the podcast a few weeks ago.
Last month, yeah.
Yeah, on how men cry.
Yeah.
And
the title of that podcast was Why Strong Men Cry.
Why Strong Men Cry, something like that. Anyway, it was about, Marc was meant to come on that, but he I can't remember why he couldn't come, but
Man flu.
It was man flu.
Oh, it was man flu. It was pneumonia, obviously. It was proper man flu. And so we really wanted you to come because you've got a lot to say and you've got a lot to offer. And I think one of the main things that Claire and I talked about on that podcast was about us starting the monthly men's circle that we have. And Marc is the founder of New Leaf, Nature and Wellbeing, and also the Forest Brotherhood. And Marc provides that space for us to hold that circle in.
Yeah.
But it's fair to say, and this is what we covered in that podcast, was that when we hold women's circles, women flooding.
They're coming on, they're booking on with their friends, their mates,
all of it.
their mums.
Men's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it's like tumbleweeds. So we again, part of our message is that, some men, not many, can open up. Everybody is capable of opening up, but for some reason, men are conditioned to not talk about their emotions or even say that they have none. And it's crazy. I always talk about my husband, Marc, who said I'm a robot. He said, I have no emotions. And 10 years ago, big things happened and lots of life changes, and he did open up, and the relationship between me and him is so much more easier because we talk about how we feel and what we're thinking. So that's why we wanted to get Marc in. I absolutely love Marc. He's hilarious. He's so funny. He's really intelligent. He is doing such a great thing with New Leaf and the Brotherhood, the Fatherhood, the Forest Hood. Honestly, you get used to this.
What's it called, darling?
It's called, darling, it's called the Forest Brotherhood.
That's the one.
And
Tell us about
it's
it.
based at New Leaf, Nature and Wellbeing, which is 14 acres of woodland, as you know, and a good few acres of land, which is something that has become a passion for me. Having left the rat race a few years ago and suffered with mental health problems all my life. It's something that has really, really helped me deal with some of my emotions and the effects of nature on mental health as well. So, yeah.
So thank you. One
You're
thing
welcome.
that
This is going to be so
This is gonna
funny.
be
It's going to be
banter.
like Mr. and Mrs., isn't it?
Yeah.
So first of all, can I just say thank you so much for coming today?
Can I just say,
Yeah.
I promised her, this is my daughter's favourite shirt that I wore
Aw.
today. And I said I'd give her a shout out. So here's your shirt, Gracie.
Oh, bless
is
her.
Yeah.
bless her. It's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah. So am I.
I thought you were wearing it because it's got like the green of the forest.
No, this is as smart as I get now. Normally I'm
Yeah,
just
like-
in, you know,
Because you're working,
canvas and
yeah.
like
Because
a
you're
caveman.
outdoor work, because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
building and thriving in New Leaf. So we've just been talking about, before we started recording, what we were going to talk about, because there's that much stuff around mental health and well-being, and we talk about the brain and the body and how in the medical world they're seen as two separate things, when really if we look at the person holistically, you'll get a better result or a better picture of how that person can thrive in their human suit. So we wanted you to come on to tell us your story about you opening up and about how you've discovered personal development. And I don't know, even if I say spirituality, I don't know if that's taking it a bit too far. When did you first open up to this new way?
I think it's probably about a year, to be honest. Like I said, I've suffered with my mental health since I was about 14, certainly in my teens, all the way through, and I've been through all the usual things: depression, stress, anxiety, a diagnosis of ADHD, which, albeit a label, is explains to me some of my traits and behaviours. So. I've been through that, and I think certainly when Jules went through her process of taking herself from disabled to able-bodied, even then I was a cynic, and I think it's a lot of guys particularly are like, oh yeah, spirituality, witch, that sort of thing. So but when you see it happen in front of you, it's undeniable. Mm-hmm. And I've watched the work that Jules has done with you, and obviously, from talking to you. And then about a year or so ago, for the first time in a while, I had a bit of a slump, and I've had one recently.
Yeah.
Anyone that's on the Facebook group, the Forest Brotherhood, and that will see I posted only a few days ago that I'm struggling at the moment. Mm-hmm. Which I don't mind admitting. So,
which is great. Yeah, thank you for that.
I kind of took a bit of a slump, and I was a bit lost. And by coincidence, I was sort of laying in bed. It's one of those, like, I'm going to bed at 5:00 in the afternoon because I just don't want to be up or around. Flicking through YouTube, and I came across a guy called Alan Watts, who's a sort of modern day philosopher, and sort of clicked on that, and at the moment the guy started talking, it was like, yes, I get that. I get that. And all of a sudden things started to make sense. And then, of course, Jules started to give me some more information to saw that I was showing an interest. Read a bit about stuff from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and understanding that.
Claire's got having an affair with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the quantum world.
Yeah. Then she put me onto a medication. Sorry, I'm just meditation woman from Liverpool. But meditation for me was an absolute no-go. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
The moment I shut my eyes, because of the way my brain works, it was like off, and I just couldn't get it. But I discovered something, about the brainwaves and the reasons. And I think when you've got an understanding of the reason behind something, it suddenly makes sense. Yeah. It's like when you understand something, you go, I can do this, and I know why I'm doing this now. Otherwise, it's just, what am I doing this for? So that developed from there, and I just suddenly started to understand and get on board more with the things that you two have been doing for years. And it all began to make a lot more sense. And then as soon as I combined that with the effects of being down the woods and in nature, it really, really started to come together. And there are scientific things that approve, like they're called phytoncides that we can talk about for ages, but we can do it another time, that have an effect on humans when you're in a natural environment. So it's come on from there. I'm by no means the finished article, as you well know.
None of us are.
Yeah.
That's no one is.
But I'm on a journey of discovery, and I think it's about sharing that. And one of the things that I think happens when you are somebody that knows what it feels like to go through dark times, to struggle, is that you have a desire to try and help others, because that gives you some comfort as well. So that's why I've started the Forest Brotherhood, because I know that there are guys just like me everywhere that will be masking themselves, that won't be showing the emotions. And it was only recently that I discovered that the suicide rate in men who through mental health is 3 times that of women. And that kind of came as a shock, but then actually it's not a surprise, because I'm no different to anyone else. I won't admit how I'm feeling. I won't open up. I try and push things aside, but it just doesn't work. So I've made a conscious decision to start to document my journey, good or bad, which is quite difficult, and also share the things that I'm learning from you, as well as the other things that I'm learning from myself as I go along.
Amazing. I've got a few questions on that. So, first of all, I want to ask you about when you said before that you've suffered from anxiety and mental health and depression from a young age. We didn't talk about that years ago. So, how did you know that? Did you know that was a thing, or did you just always feel like that and think it was normal? And like, what did that look like for you when you were, say, 14, 15, and then growing up? What was it that you were saying to yourself so that anyone listening might be able to recognise what the signs were?
Yeah, it was a case of feeling like a failure. I'm reluctant to use the ADHD as an excuse and a label, but it kind of makes sense as to why at school.
When were you diagnosed with ADHD?
Not until I was 45.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to. I was trying to telepathically say.
Yeah.
It was, but when you found out at 45, it kind of made sense.
It made sense then, yeah. And but before that, as a result of that being at school, I was always the not interested in the educational side of things. I was good at rugby. I played a lot of rugby, and got that label of is capable but can't be bothered, could do better. Effectively, a lazy ass. And of course, that just got me in trouble, both at home and at school, because I was perceived to be somebody who just couldn't be bothered with education, was wasting their time. And so that then went on to me feeling like I was failing, feeling like I wasn't good enough. Combined
like you didn't
with
fit
a lot
in as well.
but also combined with a lot of other things that were going on in my life at the time, on the personal front, as a kid. But yeah, you don't label it. You don't really know that it's depression or it's anxiety in those sort of years. You just think it's just feelings of sadness, feelings of being a failure, feelings of being worthless, and they just continue to develop. And of course, you do what a lot of people do, is turn to drugs and alcohol because that makes you feel a bit better, or it makes you forget.
going to say
it
that.
numbs you out.
Yeah.
And again, that's led perfectly onto, so because I was thinking, okay, well, where did this all start for Mark? And, you know, being 14, 15 and going back then, what how many years ago was that now?
So
What is that in the
15 years ago.
80s?
You know, it's very rude to ask a man his age. How many years ago was that? God, it was
About
40 years ago.
80s. Yeah.
Well,
So
I'm 55 now.
So that just like, it wasn't, you didn't really speak about things like that then. It wasn't, you know, all this
Growing up
mental
in the
health
60s
talk
and
and
70s.
that. There wasn't a lot. So, and again, as a boy, did you just feel sad, and then it was like, oh, well, if I have drugs and I can go out and I can drink, oh, that sort of soothes me.
Yeah.
And then you want more of that soothing, which again goes on to, that's how a lot of people are living their life now, is that we've got that many distractions like alcohol, drugs, gambling, porn, phones, work. We have so many distractions to keep us away from our thoughts and our feelings, when if we actually just met them and sat with them, which is quite shitifying for a lot of people.
Shitifying?
Shitifying.
That's a new word. I like that word.
I've said that a couple of
Shitifying.
times
Yeah.
on this podcast. Yeah.
Shitifying. God, Mark, that must have been
And
shitifying.
it's like,
It was.
so
I was shitified.
so when was it then that you discovered, what was it? Was it alcohol? Was it drugs?
Yeah, it was both.
If you don't mind sharing, you don't have to.
No, absolutely. You know, it was both. It was alcohol and drugs, and you know that carried on for until I was about 45, because it was all I knew that I could use as a crutch, if you like, to help me get through every day. I unfortunately, when I was younger, I broke my knee and I was playing a high level of rugby. So I lost that overnight, which was pretty devastating. So yeah, and I know when we joked, when we came up here, we came past a fancy dress shop and I said, oh, let's all go in fancy dress today. But joking aside, that's what you do. You put on a costume. So I put on my clown costume and I put on my bravado costume and got drunk, got stoned and became
The clown,
Mark the party animal
yeah.
and Mark this and Mark that, and spent so much time doing it. You know, it's like when an actor, gets into a role. You know, at some point they've got to come out of it. But unfortunately, I think a lot of us create a role for ourselves, which isn't us, and then we just remain in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that in you as well, to be fair. And it's a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
And when you said, when did that start? I think for Mark, it probably started at age 2. So from 2 to those formative years, because they weren't great and there was no support and the attachment styles there. Because I obviously know the backstory, and it's always about having to prove that you're good enough because you feel so shit and because you've been made to feel worthless. And in those formative years, it's all about you. So anything that happens that isn't great, the child thinks is about them.
Yeah.
And then what happens then is that all you want is safety. All you want to do is feel safe and feel loved. And if you don't do that, then you'll find other ways to do it. And you'll find different ways to not feel. And this is what we talked about before. So the not feeling is keeping busy. Some people keep busy. They're workaholics. They do all of that. Some people are sex addicts. Some people are alcoholics. Some people take drugs. Again, but maintaining this whole life, but it's a facade. And there's been, like you say, till about 45, I would say. And it's almost quite self-destructive.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well.
Because you're doing it for acceptance from others as well, aren't you? It's like that.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from, because I was Claire comes out and she's the one who stays up all night, the last one to go home. And then as I got, it took me to get to 38, 36, 37. And I was like, what am I doing? Because I was like, oh yeah, I'll go out and I'm the party animal, yeah. But inside I was sad.
Yeah.
And the next day, there's no one there when you've got
you're
the
so
beer
low.
fear and you are literally crawling up your own backside because you've got that
Doom.
anxiety and doom and that self-loathing. And we still talk about this now, don't we?
I felt like that on Monday, didn't I? Just after a little mad night in Munich. And it's not good, the energy of alcohol.
And I think one thing that Mark did as well is, because he grew up around drugs and it was norm, it's fair to say.
So you'll think,
and it's almost like he would defend that to the hilt, that it was good for you and it was this and it was that and the other, because that was his ingrained absolute belief.
It's part of that family culture or the culture that you've been brought up in. Yeah,
absolutely.
I get that.
But what there isn't a recognition of until like now, this last 12 months, is what that is and what that was a masking tool, was a self-medication tool, because actually what the central nervous system is doing, what the nervous system is doing is going, actually, I don't want to feel because I don't want to hurt. And the central nervous system is saying, right, what can we do to stop you hurting? And you've taught yourself for 45 years that the way to do that is either to take drugs or to drink alcohol to oblivion. And the good thing is, if we're going to turn a good thing, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I'm just listening to you.
But the good thing is...
He's listening to you, kid.
I know.
Who'd have thought?
He's doing very well.
But the good thing is, though,
Yeah.
I remember going way back before we had children, and we used to have this drug. I didn't grow up with drugs.
It was mad. I wish I'd have known, yeah.
It was a bit mad. But I'd say, because he had told himself that actually the life that he had was great, and it was normal, and it was like made him, what was the words you used? Made you resilient.
Character building.
Well, you kid yourself. What happens is you need to justify why you're living like that.
Yeah.
To yourself, first and foremost. So you defend it. You defend being in a situation that is completely wrong by saying, oh, yeah, but, it'll build my character and it'll make me stronger in the end. And it's all bullshit. It's... and don't forget, in those days, we didn't have the effects of social media. We didn't have the internet. So you couldn't even get information unless you went to a library, which, of course, I never did. No, because what would I do with a book?
He takes one book on holiday and reads 2 pages.
Same.
Yeah, can't be doing with it. So, and you grow up in that environment, especially at the age I am now, whereas that if you do, you show emotion or you're sad or you're depressed or you even, God forbid, you are crying, what are you grizzling about? What's the matter with you? Pull yourself together, man up, that sort of thing. So, that's what you grow up with. That's what you perceive to be the way. But that's, and to be fair, that's not just me, that's society. That's how society's been with men, which is why those rates that I talked about earlier on, 3 times out of women, that's why we're in the situation that we're in today. And that's why men struggle to, one, admit that they are suffering or that they are battling against their mind, and 2, deal with it, because dealing with it involves what I now know to be really good stuff like spirituality and all that sort of thing, meditation. But, as a bloke, a bloke says to his mates, yeah, I went to the gym and I did that and I did that. Oh, well done, mate, well done. If I walked into a pub and said, yes, well, I went and sat in the woods and meditated and I got cosmic healing the other day, you would get absolutely ripped to pieces, because they'd go, hippie, what's the matter with you? Are you weird? And that is the culture that has developed. So as a consequence, as men, we just push it away. We'll never, show it.
Push it
and of
down.
course, we don't want to show it to our other half, because that shows that we're not in control and we're losing the grip. So then what do? You just try and bury it and deal with it in your own quiet moments, which isn't a good thing to do.
And it's the opening up challenges that, and I think the first circle that we had, I asked you to join in.
Yeah.
In the woods, and you went, well, I'll just do the wood. And I went, no, you
be part of it.
And I knew that you'd embrace it once you were there, but
it's the apprehension, isn't it?
It's the apprehension. And how many of the guys there that were really nervous?
They were nervous about coming, didn't they?
But I think the bit that was very well, you learned quite a lot from the thing, and I'll ask you that in a minute. But I think one thing that it showed you was being very insular, because you've always had to survive yourself, and there's been no one there to look out for you, apart from me and the kids. But your experience growing up is there's no one's coming to save me, I've got to save myself, was actually hearing other guys that sounded just like you. Right. Yeah. And you were like, wow, I'm not on my own. And that's what triggered you to go, well, actually, I could do something really good here. And that's your 5 energy is here. You're here to spread a message with the world. That's your purpose. And you've always told everyone your purpose is to look after me and the kids. But ultimately, your purpose is you've gone through all of the stuff that you've gone through. It was all part of the plan. It was all part of, you were meant to go through it, but not for no reason. So the purpose now for you is about really learning about this. We talked about self-awareness earlier, and about you really starting your self-awareness journey, but also opening up your space and you as a human being who is still really vulnerable to help other people. And that's where the Forest Brotherhood comes in.
Yeah, it's like the other day, I've had another blip recently, and Sunday I disappeared down a very dark hole. And I'm coming back out of it now. You know, I've had all sorts of therapy over the years, and one of those is cognitive behavioural therapy, which I always found, again, probably because I got it and it makes sense. You know, I always found very useful which is about, you know, stepping back for a minute and saying, okay, stop for a minute. This isn't going to last. This is passing. You know, don't get dragged down into it further. You know, this is all new to me, sort of sharing things through social media. And on Monday, I was on my own down there, and the last thing I wanted to do in the world was social media. I mean, I didn't even want to be anywhere amongst people. And I thought to myself, well, I've made a conscious decision through the things that I'm doing, which is I've got, it's not just all about men. It's just I'm documenting through the Crazy Diamond on TikTok and Instagram, which is a general mental health journey, and then the Forest Brotherhood as well. And I thought, well, if I'm documenting, I said that I would give people things that I'm learning and the good stuff and the happy, and I have to go on and say, I'm on my arse here. I'm really struggling, because otherwise I'm not being honest and I'm not, you know, fulfilling the commitment that I've made. And, you know, it comes across as, yeah, well, you always talk about this, but, you know, are you never down? Well, yeah, I'm on my arse a lot of the time. And these are the things that I'm doing to try and pick myself back up again. This is the things I've discovered, the help I'm getting. And the strange thing is that what came across is that the lack of, you know, the lack of engagement from outside in terms of guys. And what I mean, I don't mean that they're not bothered. I mean, I got, you know, the heart and thumbs up, and I got some messages to say at the end of a phone, mate, didn't realise. And there was a couple of things that came from it. One was, oh my God, I can't believe that this has happened to you. And these are from people that I've known for years, and they never even knew that I had mental health issues.
Because you'd masked it.
And it was a surprise to them, and it's like, oh, this come out of the blue, is it? And it's, no, this has been here all the time. Nobody just ever knows.
So it just shows you're a great actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it shows you how.
Or full of shit.
Well, I couldn't possibly say that. It's a big.
Yeah. No, I am.
No, but what
do.
I mean is, you have what you were saying before about going to the fancy dress shop. You have taken on that role. I am the happy one. I'm the one that's going to be the one.
I'm the life and soul of the party. I'll make sure everyone else is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've done that really, really well. But now it's time to. And go. I'll let you carry on.
I'll be first. When I say lack of engagement, what I mean is it's highlighted to me. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's highlighted to me from the guy's point of view that you immediately get a lot of women coming and go, oh, that's
You're
terrible,
okay.
and commenting, and you okay? And, you know, well done, and that. And a few guys come in. But what it's highlighted is that, you know, guys are still hiding, because if I comment on that or I get involved, I might expose myself as being part of this strange thing. And, you know, and I know I'm not alone in terms of a guy. You know, I think what happens is that, you know, going back to the very origins of men, hunters and all that sort of thing, and basically the fight or flight. So, and we know about that, you react in two different ways. And I think men need to understand that mental health and emotions, depression, anxiety is a fight or flight situation. So what happens is, I believe, is that we choose flight, not to run away from it, but because it's a threat to us. What I mean by flight is box it up, put it away, because I don't want to be dealing with this, rather than actually dealing with it. And how many times you hear, well, I just put it to the back of my head and put that away, and it's gone. Well, it's not gone, is it? It's still there, and it can raise itself any time, as I well know. And I think that that's how we immediately react to an emotion. So it happens. We feel like depression, we feel anxiety. That's a threat to us. So what do? We don't confront it. We box it, put it away, get away from it. Don't talk about it. Yeah. Certainly don't talk about it to other blokes. Don't talk about it to your partner. But it's out of the way. But it's not. It's just bubbling and growing and growing.
It's just really dense energy. And obviously we work with metaphysics and the energy, and all that's happening is you're creating dis-ease. And this is where you get sick. And this is where, and so when you were saying you're putting in a box, what you're effectively doing there is you're going into a functional freeze, because your body is almost, so your body then, the fight or flight is triggered by your nervous system, and it's your adrenal glands are pumping the adrenaline and the cortisol because your body senses a risk. And then that creates the anxiety, the stress response, right? So what's happening there, you've got all of this cortisol, and the cortisol is the master hormone. And what that master hormone is telling your body is, right, all we need to do is keep this bloke alive, because he can't do anything else. This is just about survival now, because cortisol is the master hormone about survival. But then what you're doing is you're going, okay, I'm surviving. But you've literally, what you've done is you've frozen. So it's almost like that act then becomes the functional part of that freeze. But actually all that's happening is your body is being overloaded by this hormone.
And then you're topping it up with
more
drink
stress
and drugs, which is more stress, physical, chemical stress to the stress that's already there.
But your body can't deal with it, because you're only here to survive. So when you used to self-medicate, either with weed or with alcohol. So with Marc, it was started off with 1 glass of wine, then 2 glasses of wine, then the bottle of wine, and then 2 bottles of wine. Your liver...
Pint of killer as well.
I know. But your liver isn't being able to work as it should, because your body is just keeping you alive. So what happens then is you then go into this spiral of, I feel shit. I'm going into the self-loathing. My body can't, the alcohol's sitting there. My system is poisoned. Inflammation's happening. Things hurt. It's dis-ease because you're pushing it down. And this is why opening up, and the work that Claire and I lead, is opening up frees that energy. It breaks that energy down so that it can flow. So speaking out and being true to yourself and allowing that energy to flow actually helps you perform on a holistic level. So what you're saying there about putting it in a box, you're absolutely spot on. What you need to also recognise is the impact that that's having on your physical body, because your physical body is struggling.
Yeah. That's one of my new discoveries. The link between the mind and the body is very real. You don't think it is. That sometimes your stomach makes a decision for yourself, and people go, no, it doesn't. Your brain makes it. No, sometimes your stomach will make a decision for you, or your chest, or your heart, or palpitations, or breathlessness. That's your body making decisions, good or bad. And I never realised this. And you're right. You get into that circle where you start abusing both. You're abusing your mind and you're abusing your body. Then you go down the spiral of feeling worse, then the self-loathing, then the actual, well, I'm quite happy self-abusing because I'm a piece of shit anyway. So, yeah, I'll just keep doing it and keep doing it. It don't bother me, And it's until you break that vicious circle, if you like, or till you're able to break it, then, it can continue. And you mask it, like I said, and
And that can be hard to break it as well, because you've been programmed for so long to just do that and just exist that way. So when you actually do become conscious of it and be like more, okay, my body's not really working that well, I'm going to choose to change. And then you might start to do the work, but then you're starting to go into the realms of something that you don't know, that it's and I know Joe Dispenza talks about this all the time, where he says you will start a new regime or a ritual, and a couple of days in, your body starts to go, hang on a minute, you don't normally do this on a Wednesday afternoon, take a stroll in the park. You're normally opening up a bottle of wine. So your body will start to try and get you back to that old habit, and it's about being conscious of that and going, no, let me, and it will start to, again, the stress hormone will come through now, because you're now out of your normal comfort.
Yeah. And it's weird to say that being messed up, being in a state, being ill is a comfort zone.
Yeah.
But it is, and you're right.
That's what your body knows. It wants to go back to that. Yeah.
So in the traffic lights of tolerance, we talked about earlier, in the nervous system, what's basically happening here, because you don't want to feel, right? You don't want to feel these emotions. That's not a good thing.
It's like, oh, this
isn't right. So what you're doing is you're finding another way. And so physical pain is easier to tolerate than emotional pain. And this is where some of the chronic pain syndromes come from. There's an amount of adverse childhood experiences, a lot of traumas. And again, it's not for us to say what's traumatic and what's not, what's a little trauma, what's a big trauma, because we're all individuals and we all have our own perception. But actually having the pain, so your testament, when I had my fibromyalgia, I was in that much pain, I couldn't bloody move. I was bedbound. So, but dealing with that was easier than dealing with the trauma stuff. And it wasn't until I dealt with the trauma that the pain left my body. And I think we did a podcast episode about planting the seeds with our loved ones.
Yeah.
And I said at the time, I think Mark's about 5 years behind me. And actually this was before this last, well, you've called it a blip.
Yeah.
I'm calling it a breakthrough, because I feel like this is a turning point for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I call it a blip because out of the blue, I was feeling great. And then all of a sudden, literally like a light switch, I just went straight down a dark hole of sadness and horrible thoughts.
Okay.
And pardon?
That's okay.
Yeah, it's so horrible though. But I mean, what I will say on reflection is that there is no way, like a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago, that the way I was on Sunday, that I will be sat here today. Previously,
Yeah.
and taking positives of thinking, well, actually, yes, it's horrible, and God, I've gone back there, and hate going back there, and it's horrible. Is looking at it now and thinking, well, I'd still be there a few years ago, and there's no way I would have been here today talking to I wouldn't be talking to anyone anyway. So for me, that just reinforces what I've been doing is the right course, and I'm doing the right things.
Yeah.
But, I'm lucky in a way, because I've got Jules at home who knows this stuff. I've now you and the people that you're introducing me to. So I'm able to experience these things. Other blokes aren't. So they got two choices. They either do something silly or just hide it all the time.
They've got 3 choices.
At the moment, they feel like they have 2 choices. And what we want to try and do is say, no, there is an actual third choice. Because when I went to a therapist of mine, I learned a lot of stuff there. And he said, well, what do you want to get out of this? And I said to him, I know that it's never, ever going to leave. It's never going to go. But if there's a way that I could just manage it and cope with it. And he went, well, why do you think it's never going to go? I said, because it's ingrained into me. And there's nothing that's going to stop it. I've just got to try and figure out a way of dealing with it. And if you give me the tools to do that, that's great. He went, well, what's if I said to you, you can get rid of it? And I said, well, that would be amazing. And, that at that time I was in a real mess. And, that was my first step to thinking, oh, actually, yeah, I can deal with this, rather than just hide it or think that this is around for forever. So I think, the message that I want to try and get across, which is, I'll be honest with you, it's like getting blood out of a stone with blokes. And I'm getting a mirror.
Tumbleweeds.
I'm getting a mirror put up in front of me because I'm trying desperately to put myself out there and get guys to engage, and they're not. And I'm thinking, well, why? And then I'm thinking, actually, no, of course they're not, because they're me. They're no different to me. They're not going to engage until they're ready to. So my mission with what I'm trying to do and the work that I'm doing with you and everything else is to say, like you said, there is a third option. There is another option, and it is a good one, and it works. Because I think that's, as blokes, we're natural cynics. And I called Jules a witch for years when she was talking about healing with oils and energy and stones and whatever. But I have been convinced and am convinced of what's possible now, and my aim is to get that across to other blokes and say, look, I know, but it is possible. It can work.
And I'm just coming from listening to you and coming from a place of being a yoga teacher. And all of the old scriptures and the philosophy, the yoga philosophy, and we hear it from all gurus and Dr. Joe and Alan Watts, and it's about the choice that I see is it's a path, and it's a choice of love, because love is the greatest power that you can have, and it's that whole piece of, if you just find love within yourself and that peace, that's it. That's the joy. That's. It's in the moment. It's there.
But the key words there were loving yourself.
Yeah, it's got to start here.
Yeah, you don't value yourself, and while we're on, as far as men go, I think nowadays it's things have changed. Society's changing. In the old days, women stayed at home. They cooked, they cleaned. Men went out to work, threw some money on the table, go to the pub. Right, that's my role. I'm there. Nowadays, it's all very, very different, and there's different stresses and everything else. And actually now, women go out and earn the money, and sometimes men stay home, or both. It happens to both. So all of a sudden, men find themselves in a different situation. And speaking from my own point of view is that you feel all of a sudden like if things don't go right, or you've not done something, as a man, as the person you feel that should be a protector and provider for your family, you start to think, well, I failed. I'm a failure. So what use am I? I'm of no use to them whatsoever. And actually then that escalates and it goes on. And then you start to go down the route of trying to numb that feeling with the drink and drugs, and eventually get to the point which I got to, and I'll admit it, where I thought, well, actually they'd be better off without me because they can crack on. It's a sign of the times that that is going on, that men are struggling. And the other thing then is men don't have those outlets traditionally. That it's not known. So a man will say, I feel like this, but I can go to talk to other blokes. Like women are so much more
advanced. It's very few and far between, isn't it?
With their emotions and their expressions. And in a way, I would guess stronger, because it takes strength to deal with it. So there's no way a bloke would walk into a pub or walk into a club or go and see his mates or pick up the phone to his mates and say, mate, I'm really struggling. We won't do it. And, we need to.
That's what we want to encourage.
Yeah. That was one of the things that came out of the chats, the stuff that's come through in response to your post this week. And people have gone, oh yeah, I'm at the end of the phone. But the truth is, the way that it was on Sunday, there's no way that you'd have picked up the phone. So it's almost like, right, well, let's turn it round. So all these people that you've got in your life that you think are strong and are the life and soul, and they've got it all together, ring them.
Check in
and I
with
said
them.
to Mark as well, how many blokes have you rang in the last 12 months, in the last 5 years even? And you go, we just don't.
Yeah.
And so something has to change. And I guess that's where the passion for the Forest Brotherhood goes.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, and we're really supporting it, because we're supporting the message, because we know that people are watching. and you can't use the metrics, how many people have liked, how many people have commented, because they are watching.
Yeah.
And for the reasons that you've just said, they're not engaging.
Yeah.
Because
Right
they're not
now.
ready to right now.
Yeah, it's about that the trust. They might not even see it in themselves yet. Some people are not that self-aware to notice. They're just programmed in a certain way, and that's their journey. But the whole point of this is, and why we wanted you to come on the podcast, is so that we can spread that message, because there are little pockets of men's groups and there's men's charities. I know I did something a few years back for Campaign Against Living Miserably Calm, which is for men. And there's obviously the Men Without Masks, but there needs to be more. Hence why you've got New Leaf and the Forest Brotherhood.
And we're looking at
and
Wild Warrior Wellbeing, aren't we?
and
as
the
well?
Wild Warrior Wellbeing, because there's masses of benefits of being outside and moving outside, and that could be whether that's like a bit of breathwork and meditation, but also building things and creating things and getting back to that stuff that we do outside. We're not supposed to be in buildings behind screens. We're not made for that. Definitely not.
That's part of that. That's a good point, actually, is that the reason that it is the Forest Brotherhood is because not only did I discover that the benefits of the nature, but the things I do, that's my job. So I work out there, I do things which are sort of bushcraft related. And I all of a sudden realised that when I'm doing these things and I'm learning new things relating to sort of like simple bushcraft and building things and all that, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm really focused on that, and it's enjoyable.
It's flow,
and
isn't it?
you're right. We forget that. We forget that actually just going into the woods and building a den is real fun.
Satisfaction.
And I thought, well, this is doing me good. So a combination of something that provides an outlet for simple bushcraft stuff, not so that you can become a weekend warrior and you can go out and live like Rambo, but just because. Oh yeah, some of us would. But because when you're doing something like that, you won't be thinking about anything. And I think you remember when we had the men's circle, the first thing the guy said to us was, it just feels like the outside world has disappeared now, sitting here in the middle of the woods. So a combination of something that is enjoyable together with the well-being and the self-healing stuff that you can bring to it, I know will help so many people.
And just being in that space because of the proven benefits of being in nature. Sorry, I'm cold. I've had to put a coat on. Had to put my gowns on. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, comfy now.
I was going to ask something then, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so going back just to one point that you said before about Marc switching it and saying, okay, Marc, you're going to pick up the phone and phone a couple of guys, text message them possibly. Simon Sinek talks about, I don't know if you know who he is, but he's like he talks a lot about leadership, and he's in business, and he wrote a book, something, about your why.
Yes,
and
we've got it.
Yeah, and he's a great guy actually, and he opened up on a podcast and he spoke about how, I think he's got ADHD and he hasn't got a partner and he's single and he's feeling very lonely, and that he messages his friends and he can call them. They've got like a pact, like a promise, and they'll just say, I'll sit in the mud with you, I'll just come and sit in the shit, I'll come and sit, and they literally will sit with him and they don't say anything, they just listen, and he feels heard. And I think there might only be like 3 or 4 of them that do that, but he said that's so powerful. He said, I don't want them to make me feel better, I don't want them to say anything, I just want them to be in the mud with me.
Yeah, and that's something I learned from you on the men's circle last time. A couple of things is that, somebody breaking down within the circle, don't go running over to them, but it's that natural urge to solve or deal with for somebody that I'm only just beginning to realise isn't what's necessarily needed. It's just like you say, either just giving them the space to express their emotions, or just saying, well, I can't fix it, but I can sit and with you and experience it. And that was a real eye opener for me. But I think the other thing with men is that we're such shit communicators. You know, you don't often see men just randomly on the phone chatting away about life to other men. You know, we don't.
But once
Jules,
you get started,
I speak to Jules and say, "Oh, who did you speak to today? I spoke to so and so. I haven't spoken to for ages. Oh, how is he? Yeah, he's all right. And how's his wife? I don't know. And how's his kids? I don't know. Well, I haven't asked that. Didn't ask that. What's he doing now? I don't know. He's all right. Yeah." And that's how we are. We don't, you know.
Not all of you are like that.
A lot of us
There's
are.
a lot, but
There's
they're not
a lot
all.
of us
Yeah.
are. So it's a strange thing, you know, for men to sort of actively communicate for outside of the fact that they want to organise a piss up or they want to do something with business. They don't just generally chat just for fun.
but maybe that's a challenge and anyone who's listening to the podcast is send a text message a day to a friend and just say, thinking about you today, how are you? Fancy a catch up?
Yeah.
And throw it out there.
What I did get from my post the other day was which really meant a lot to me, was from just little messages from people saying, oh, you know, again, sorry to hear you're going through that, and very proud of what you're doing and putting it out there. And I got to say, you know, it came from people that I haven't seen for 10, 15 years, or people that are not even in this country. And that meant so much to me that, you know, it was that sort of feedback of people never expected for 1 minute, you know, to suddenly message me and say, I've just seen this. You okay, mate?
And the right people will see it at the right time, won't they? And as you say, someone who you haven't seen for years will see that, and that might really help them. And someone that you don't know, and they'll see that, and it'll really help them. And that's huge. So the more that we can,
and that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to, in a way, my own way, demonstrate that actually, guys, we can speak about it.
and
we
it's
need
so
to
much
speak
easier
about
when
it.
you do.
It's not all going to explode in our face when we suddenly let go, because there's that fear factor. There's a fear factor with everybody that goes through it, is that if I deal with this, it's going to open a can of worms that I really don't want to be dealing with, and I'd rather not, thank you. And I always, you know, I've come to relate it to, ironically, going out on the piss and coming home and laying in bed and that room's going and you, oh my God. And the only thing that eventually will make you feel better and allow you to rest and get to sleep is being sick, is getting it out. But you don't want to do that because it's a horrible thought. So you hang on. And then sometimes your body decides for you. But actually what's become known as a tactical puke, you know, is mentally is the best thing that you can do, is get it out.
Release.
Because I promise you, you know, I know once it comes out, you take back control from it because it's controlling you inside. Once it's out, you start to control it, and
It's
then you start to
lighter
learn.
as well. You just feel so much lighter, don't you?
Yeah.
And more open. So absolutely, I love that analogy. Vomiting.
Who'd like the
I've
tactical
got a couple of things.
Get it?
I've got a couple of things. The thing that you just said, men don't pick up the phone to each other and chat, right? So you asked me a question on the way here today, which was about, do you feel that men don't come to the circle because it's women are involved? There's one.
That's good.
And the other point, so we asked people in the circle, and the feedback that we got was actually they
prefer
open
women.
up more because of that. And the other thing that I just wanted to point out, that when men speak to us, they literally don't stop speaking. Yeah. And Claire has blokes that literally phone and just talk to her. So they do it. So what I'm asking is, would it be easier for you to pick up a phone to say, Claire, and say, how are you today, Claire? And have a chat? Because I feel that you could probably pick up the phone to Claire and just have a chat about all sorts, regardless, but you wouldn't do it for a man. So I'm trying to understand what the difference is.
No, I mean, I've like I said, I'm not the finished product, and the idea of what I'm doing isn't to appear out of the blue and say, I used to suffer, I don't anymore, and this is how I've done it, because that works for a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to do is to say, I'm still there. I'm not the end product, but this is my journey, and I really want to share stuff that's helping me. But the thing is I don't. If I'm honest, I wouldn't pick up the phone when I'm feeling that bad.
To anyone. But necessarily, you say men don't pick up the phone and check in on each other. Men don't pick up the phone and ask how each other are. But if I say, but I feel like you would pick up the phone to Claire and say, how are you?
I would engage completely, 100%, if I got a message from Claire saying, I've heard you're feeling rough. Yeah. What's up, kid? I would open up. But I wouldn't go, morning, Claire, I'm really feeling it today.
There's a generator.
Yeah, so he needs...
And I don't know why that is.
I know what it is.
But,
and I know, I can intuitively feel if I've not heard off one of my male friends, because I've got a lot of male mates. Well, I've got a lot of friends, but a lot of them have said to me, who've come to me in conversations or for coaching, who've said, I feel like there's no judgment. I feel like I can say anything to you. You won't laugh. You won't think anything bad or good. It's just, I can just tell you, we can cry, we can laugh. And I'm like, absolutely. And it's the trust is there.
Yeah.
And I always genuinely is because I care. And because I've seen my dad suffer as well. And that makes me feel sad that he never had an outlet. That I don't want any men that I know to feel like that without, just exploring that and releasing it. Because no one should have to live like that. That's just not a way to live at all.
No.
Life is supposed to be joyful. And yes, heartbreaking things happen and we go through lows and there's darkness and there's light and it's a contrast and it is a journey. But if you have still got this connection to inside, the light will come back in.
Sure.
But you this is your profession, and you know a lot of these things, and again, with learning this as I go along, the things that I learned from you just from the last circle and the things that I've learned from Jules as we go along, it comes back to that man thing of, remember I said earlier, provider, protector. So your family is there and there's a problem or something happens or your kid gets bullied or someone picks on your wife or something happens, find out. Your job is to solve it. So I'm a solver. And that is ingrained into us. So the way that, and I believe, the way that men look at it is, well, what's the point? If I can't fix it, there's no point in me getting involved. Whereas what you're saying, which is right, is you're not there to fix it. You're there to listen. You're there to say, wow, I'll sit with you in the shit. But men's instinct is to be a fixer. So we think, a bloke comes to you and says, I'm really struggling. I'm on the edge. I've had enough of life. You immediately think, right, well, how can I deal with this? How can I solve this problem for him? And that's what you do. You go into that mode and then you think, well, I can't, so I don't know what to do. I'm in a real tiz.
Yeah.
Whereas if we start understanding that actually you go, oh, you mate, right, let's just get together and sit and wallow together.
And again, this is why I think coaching would be great in schools, where we teach people how to be a coach and just ask, because coaching is asking questions and listening. And it literally is, mate, what's going on? Are you okay?
You're a 3-5 and Claire's a 3-5 and I'm a 5-1. So the 5 is the save the day energy. So we are here to solve the problems. So it's not necessarily just a male thing, but from a 5 energy point of view, we are here to solve the problems. And I think it's
amplified in men because of that natural instinct with family of provider, protector, it rolls over. So, yeah, you're right. It isn't necessarily just men.
But even as women, you want to protect your family. You want to make sure the kids are okay. But then sometimes we get projected on and people can take so much of our energy, which then can make us feel
heavy.
Oh, I know.
Heavy. So we have to protect ourselves as well.
What it does.
And not take on everything, because a massive thing for me, especially as a mum, and, Josh is 15 now, the one thing that you used to give babies when they were crying is dummies, and it's like, shh, oh, it's okay. Oh, what's he crying for? He's crying because he's hungry. It's his way of telling me that he's uncomfortable or his nappy needs changing. But it's like, oh, it's okay, shh. And you want, because what they say is the pain that you hear, if you hear someone crying or someone in pain, it triggers something in you. So that's why you're trying to tame it down, and you're quieting something in yourself. And what I've learned over the last 10 years is don't stick that dummy in. Let them cry, and don't try and stick the bottle in, because it might not be what they want unless they start sucking on the bottle or the breast, however you want to put it.
On a Wednesday.
But it's like, stop.
I mean, I can speak for a lot of blokes to say that might help, when we're feeling a bit depressed.
But you know, it is, allow the baby to cry, allow it to laugh, allow it to be sad, allow it to be angry, and yes, give it that love, but we don't try and shut it up with it. Because I remember doing this with Josh's dummy. Because that's what it's like, oh, I don't want you to cry. Oh, it's painful. And then you're like, oh my God, shut up, because it's triggering something in you.
Shut up.
And then as a mum, I've gone, wow. Now, as a 15-year-old teenage boy with raging hormones and a girlfriend and school and GCSEs, I want him to express himself, and he does. And I'm so glad that we know what we know, so that we can bring up men to express themselves.
And that's what was talking about earlier, when before we had kids, obviously you were the protector of all of what life was for you, and it was all great, and he told himself this story, and I just kept thinking, God, well, if we have kids, I don't want them to have that story. And I asked the question at what point was, if we had children, and what if they said they wanted to do X, Y, and Z? Well, I'd do it with them. But as soon as they'd arrived, no, we wouldn't do it with them at all, because you're going to protect them from the shit that you've actually dealt with. So from a positive point of view, you have been able to support our children in like a whole completely different way to the way that you were treated.
And again, that's a choice, isn't it?
Mistreated.
Because you chose to be a great dad, which you are. You could have gone down the route and abused your kids and blamed everything on everyone else and your upbringing, because there's two choices, isn't that what we...
Always two choices.
It's like...
Or three.
There's
two.
like... that you can have two brothers who come from the same family, same upbringing. One chooses to be a loving father, provider. Another blames his childhood from the same family and why his life's gone a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's a choice.
Yeah, I mein, I would never in a million years want my kids to experience the things that I've experienced. I love my kids to death. I would die for my kids, and that I'm so proud of what they've become now, it's difficult because I hate them to see me sometimes like I am, and I was saying to Jules on the way up here, it's even more difficult because I know that I know that the other day when I put something out on Facebook about how I was, within an hour, my kids are going to see the fact that I'm saying I'm on my arse, I don't want a beer anymore. Fortunately, we've got such a great relationship. They know what I'm doing because we talked about it. They know that when I'm out there, there's a reason to it of what I'm saying. That they know where I am in life at the moment means I'm just being honest about how I feel. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. I'm just being honest about how I feel. But, it's important to pass that on to kids. At the moment with social media, and I've seen it with my kids, particularly my daughter, the bullying never stops sometimes on social media. And, you're seeing like mental health in children now of 15, 16 upwards, even younger. Because back in our day, the only time that could happen was with physical contact. Once you go home, you go home. The phone's normally locked with a little padlock back in those days.
I had an avocado phone.
Whereas now, they can get you 24/7 and, they can torment each other, and it's horrible, some of it. And it's trying to, the schools, I don't believe, are geared up for it. I think they have their anti-bullying campaigns and they have their anti-bullying procedures and all this stuff in place, but they never deal with it. I don't believe.
There's That's a podcast we're going to do. Is actually is another episode about the education system. But they're
don't
saying
start
they're saying
that.
I know they're saying things about banning phones from school. It's not about banning the phones. It's about educating the kids on when to use the phones. It's not because you
and
take
how.
something away from someone.
And educating kids
it just
on how
makes them want
to
it more.
behave in a way that's normal and moral.
Being open and honest as well, and allowing them to
and
express themselves.
Exactly. It's
let me just tell you this story now, just very quickly. I was with a lady at the Chunky Dunk this week, and her son, he sounds like a right
a chunky
character.
dunk's a skinny dip, by the way.
Cold water, though.
It's neither of those. It's cold water therapy, to be honest.
He's 10, and the teacher said, "What do we get from cows?"
Yeah.
And guess what his answer was? What do you reckon?
Well, I would have said milk.
What would you say, Mark?
Milk.
He said homework. And that's what, and she said, I bloody love that. She said, I thought, oh my God, but actually, let him be honest and open.
Yeah.
And celebrate it. Yeah.
God. So was that a teacher that was laughing about it, or his mum?
No, his mum.
Because
The teacher was probably having a nervous
as a
breakdown.
teacher, I'd laugh my head off at that.
I would
laugh my head off.
Yeah.
That's so
I mean,
fun.
and it's not down to the teachers.
It's
The
a
teachers are
sense of
doing the
humour.
job that they're there to do, that they are instructed to do, and they don't have much choice in it. It's the system
It's a heavy
that's
system.
broken.
It is a heavy system.
Well, let's
Yeah.
not go into education on this one.
But
We'll be here forever.
I saw something the other day is that, the knock-on effect to that is that the sick time from work, so I'm like you, I can't speak. Statistics, that's the word. Used to be like 40% would be between the age group of 40 to 50 sick time from work because of this, that and the other. It's now completely changed, and 24% of time off work is between 20 and 25, and it's down to mental health. So that's starting to become a real problem in the workplace where, and I believe that's stuff that's rolled on because mental health comes from a number of different areas. It comes from trauma, it comes from experience, it comes from this, builds up over time. So that's showing that what's happening
Something needs
is
to be
the
done.
Younger, for that,
Well, they're not-
for that sickness level to be coming down lower in age
because
over
they're
the
not
years.
built for the workplace. That we're not built for Monday, Friday, 9-5 or shift work or being in a building all the time. And that's what the latest, the next, what are we on to now? Gen Z, X, millennial. I get it. They don't want to be in a building all of the time. It doesn't work. No, it doesn't. So anyway, we're going off on one there. So I'd just like to say, did you have any more questions?
No, we could talk forever, but I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you so much for being open and honest and sharing your experience with us. We want to be able to share I can't get the Forest Brotherhood. I keep
You've just
going
done it. Well done.
the Forest
Congratulations.
Brotherhood. If we can share that in the show notes,
Yeah.
that is on Facebook. But you
Yeah.
are looking to go to Instagram, I think, can't you? We were
Yeah,
discussing
we
that
are
before.
on Instagram as well. I'm looking to start a group there.
And then we've got New Leaf Wellbeing.
Nature and Wellbeing, yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes as well. And obviously, is there anywhere else that we can share?
The personal one that covers general mental health is
Crazy
the Crazy Diamond
Diamond.
on TikTok and Instagram, which is because my general journey that affects everybody.
So thank you. Thanks
you.
for that, kid.
Oh, it's lovely. I see. I shouldn't have been scared of you, should I?
Absolutely not.
We're not scary.
And she didn't call you a victim, I don't think.
Well,
at
I'm
all,
used to
did
see.
you?
The thing is that I'm used to spending my days with squirrels and peacocks and all these sort of,
I am a peacock. You can be the squirrel.
and
Squirrels are a
and
nightmare.
rabbits and that, and who are great listeners and don't talk at me. So this is all very weird.
Victim.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
darling. Thank you. So I hope that's been useful.
Now we can just say thank you and we're done.
Claire's done. So
Thank you for listening to that. I really hope that you can share this with the men in your life as well as women and children. I don't know whether some people might find it triggering to listen to, so maybe we put a warning at the beginning of the show.
okay.
Thanks. Namaste.
Ta-ra.